Hello everybody and welcome back to 3D Rave. So today we are going to be starting a new series for Twinmotion. I'm going to be using the 2023.2.4 version, but you can use any of the latest versions and that should be good to go. When we open up Twinmotion, we are going to be greeted with this screen. So in the Home tab, we can have all of the news related to Twinmotion. If we go to Learning, we can find some tutorials for Twinmotion. If you come to templates, you can find pre-made projects for architecture, product, and automotive design. You can download these and see around and maybe learn from these. If you want to find the plugins for 3ds Max, ArchiCAD, Rhino, SolidWorks, and SketchUp, you can come here in the plugins and download and use those as well. We're going to be closing the screen here, and now we have this whole of the interface. In the middle of the screen, you can find different options for orbiting around, pan, look around, moving. Now, if you click on this gear button, you can find the different presets related to different software. Different options for like orbiting, pan around, and look around are going to be pretty much similar for different softwares except for a few. So if I click on Twinmotion Editor, Unreal Editor, 3ds Max, and Revit, you can see that the options are exactly same, but the options are going to be different for SketchUp and Blender users. And that is middle mouse button, pan option is gone. So in order to get that, basically we have to press and hold the shift button on your keyboard and then use middle mouse button to pan around. So that one was different as compared to the other ones. I'll head back to 3ds Max because I'm using that. On your left side, before we go to this whole of the interface, I just want to quickly go to Edit and Preferences to show you a couple of options here. In the unit setup, you can choose what kind of unit you're going to be using for your files. I'm going to be using the fit system. For the time steps, I'm going to be using the 12 hours. And there are a couple of other options as well. If you're using a lower end PC, just make sure that you select a lower end preset because it's going to make sure that your viewport is working really fast. So I'll hit OK. Now on the left side, we have the library. So in the library, you can have everything related to materials, different objects, lighting, HDRIs, libraries such as Megascans and Sketchfab. You can use your own library. You can create it. Basically going to use a library and hitting plus button here, and then you can add different objects, and you can also basically add different objects from the scene. Let's say I have this sphere over here, and if I right click, I can add it to user library from here as well. So that's a good option. Anyways, that is the library. If I click on this button at the bottom, that should collapse. The stat is really not that important. It gives you the FPS, the CPU and GPU usage and stuff like that. Click on that. In the middle of the screen, we have already talked about these buttons like Orbit, Pan, Look Around. Okay, WASD to move around, Q and E to move up and down. The next option is regarding the speed. So if I am at 1 speed, it is really slow. If I'm at 6, it's way faster. How do you know which speed determines what? So if you click on this eye icon, click on the second options, these are those speeds. All right, so if you're going to be walking speed, that's going to be 3. So press 3 and you can basically move at walking speed. Just a quick tip, if you want to move a little bit faster than 3 or any other speed, but not going up one spot. So if I'm at 3 and I press and hold shift and then use my move around options, I'll be moving faster, but that's not going to be faster by +1. Okay, so it's going to stay at 3 but not go to 4, but still it's going to be a little bit faster as compared to 3. Similarly, if you're at let's say 4 and it's going really fast, I want to go a little bit slower, so I can hold down Alt and then move. It's going to be a little bit slower. I don't need this navigation panel, so I'm going to come here and hide it. And if you really want it, you can basically go to this eye icon, go to really bottom, and let's show navigation from here as well. On the top in the middle, you have the first option for the Pathtracer. You can turn it on or off. If I turn it on, it's gonna turn on the Pathtracer for me. If I click on the drop down menu, you can see different presets. If you don't want to use the default samples, basically you can plug your own values. Click on the Pathtracer, go back. The second one is the material picker. I click on it and I click on any of the objects in the scene, and that should give me the properties for that material. Okay, I can make any of the changes axis I want to. For example, changing luminosity, changing rotation, and everything like that. These next three options are going to be moving the objects, rotating, and scaling, and these correspond to 7, 8, and 9 on your keyboards. So if you have 7, you can move the objects on a certain scale, move up and down. You can also plug in a value here. Just hover over any axis and you can plug in any value you want. Or you can click on the intersection and you can move in the two axes simultaneously. Same goes for 8. You can rotate around any certain axis. You can plug in the values. The next up is scaling. That is 9. So you can scale your objects in different axes. That looks really ugly. So these icons at the top are done. By the way, once you click on the material picker, you're going to be having these options. So the option that is next to material picker is basically the UVs. If you want to use the cubic UV, cylindrical, spherical, or from the object UVs as well. The next option is how do you want to apply the material? Is it going to directly apply like replace material, apply to object, or apply to selection? We're going to be seeing these in detail in a later video. In the bottom of the screen, in the middle, you can have the import option. You can import different objects. If I click on plus and click on open, you can see that Twinmotion supports all of these file formats. Like if you're coming from 3ds Max background, it's going to give you option from FBX, Datasmith, 3ds, and DXF, OBJ, files like that. Let's click cancel. For the materials, you can basically create your own materials here. We'll be seeing that in detail as well. If you click on populate, you can populate your scene with different types of foliage. You can basically paint the foliage or scatter the foliage. For the path, you can create a path for the characters. You can change the settings and that should give you people. Crazy, isn't it? So same goes for creating a bicycle path, vehicle path, or any other custom path you want. For the urban, you can basically create a basic 3D scene with road and a couple of building blocks from anywhere in the world. Give the location, download, and you should be able to place that in the scene. Next up, we have export. Once you have made all of your scene, you can export either the image, video, panorama, presentation. You can export them to the local on your computer, or you can also export them to cloud as well. Right now, all of these options are grayed out because we have not defined anything in the media. If I click on media, you can basically take photos, take videos, panorama, presentation, and stuff like that. We'll see that in detail as well. Now, you can see that at the top, we have the ambience. If I click on that, you can change the time of the day from here. And the exact same option is available here as well. If you click on this eye and click on this sun icon, you can basically change the same thing. Below that, you have the exposure settings, the setting for weather conditions, whether it's going to be raining, cloudy, sunny, the time of the season, is it winter, summer, spring, something like that. And you can basically go into detail, fiddle around with the settings like height, fog, wind speed, wind direction, and so on and so forth. You can change the HDRI. Right now, our scene is being lit by a sun. You can also plug in HDRI here and get the lighting from that. You can change the setting for horizons. If I click on that, so it's gonna give me some buildings. I can click and change what I see. And the next one is my most favorite. You can create an ocean. You can create a swimming pool, and voila, we are in the middle of the desert and we have a sea. You can basically change the height of the ocean from here, change the appearance as well. Let's click on the ocean and let's disable that. Hide the properties, and before we go into Scene Explorer, let's talk about these couple of options that we forgot to discuss. If you click on the eye icon, you can basically change the time of the day. Already talked about the speed. The next one is for taking the screenshot. The next one is really important. Right now, we are in the drone mode. So that's why we are like flying around in the thin air. If you're in the house and you want to move around, you can click on the pedestrian mode and that should land you on the ground below and you should be able to walk. The next button is really important because it gives you different views like top view, side view, bottom left perspective, so on and so forth. So we are done with that. The last thing remaining here is gonna be our Scene Explorer, and this is the most important part. Let me tell you why. This is going to contain everything in your scene. You can click on eye icon next to anything, and you can basically either hide or see either any group or individual objects. You can right click on any of these guys and you can create different folders like containers. You can rename the objects, cut, copy, paste, delete, isolate, zoom to selection. By the way, that is like pressing F button. So if I go really far away, select my object from here, hit F, and I'm right there. And then we have some other options as well, like sorting by category, alphabetically, and so on and so forth. If you go to Ambience, you can also change the camera settings like field of view, camera effects like parallelism, sharpness, lens dirt, vignetting, lens flare, and stuff like that. You can also change these render settings like controlling the GI, controlling the shadows, and in the FX panel you can basically change the contrast, saturation, stuff like that. Alright, so I think we are done with the interface, and in the next videos we can start working in Twinmotion. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you like the content, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a great day.